This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Wondery. That's greenlight.com/Wondery.
Guy.
Hello, Lindy. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good today. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's sunny and nice in Los Angeles.
It's sunny and nice in Washington State.
Lovely.
We're here to talk today about something very important, which is the new Netflix #1 limited series, Baby Reindeer, : is it good for the fats? How are we feeling?
I am deeply mixed about whether it is good for the fats and whether it's good for the gays. People were talking about it, and I didn't know that it was relevant to me, but then I started watching it. And then in the first episode, it was really presenting fat desire as a poison in a way that is not uncommon in media. I got into a real fisticuff with the lady who wrote and directed Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which both of us, I'm sure, will agree, a great film. It has dorky fat guy in it who's like the person that we don't want liking us. And I commented on that, and she talked about the context of it, and she's amazing, and the film's amazing. But I just started to feel weird about the way that this fat person being presented as disgusting and crazy and violating when we don't have a whole lot of fat representation was weird. We have a lot of queer characters now. A lot of them are the same queer character. Like, we need to have a conversation about gay assistants. There are too many gay assistants in little suits running around, and that is supposed to be enough. But with fatness, it isn't even that. The inability of casting directors to understand that they could put somebody in a story who was fat if it doesn't directly hinge on their fatness, it is a real issue. There aren't many people who are doing that right now. And it's deeply frustrating. It leads to a situation where it just doesn't cross anybody's mind that you could center a story on the actress who plays Martha.
You know what's funny?
What?
I wonder how fat the real Martha was. Because I was just thinking about how when I made my show, where we tried to do nice representation of a fat lady,
yeah,
we had to cast someone not as fat as me.
Yeah.
And then maybe I wonder if they cast someone fatter than the real Martha to be the scary fat lady.
I'll bet you cash money. The series pulls apart this cis straight presenting white guy and like tries to show, I mean, the fundamental song of this limited series is that we've all been that person in need. And I kind of loved that.
That is so much more sympathy than fat people usually get.
Yes.
That there was something about that was sweet to me. And they really restrained themselves from ever having him say, "Ew, I find you physically disgusting." Which is a low bar.
It's a low bar. And there is also something to me when it comes to fat desire and representation of fat desire. Like, part of what's underlying this is this idea of how dare you put me in the awkward position of having to tell you how disgusting you are. You're supposed to just have like auto settings on where you reject yourself, and then I never have to do that work. And I do think that it plays her body for sexual ridiculousness at times, in a way that it's hard not to in our society when there is no representation or very few representations of fat desire or fat sexuality that are just sort of like, look at this, this is good. It can't help itself but say, can you believe that this lady thought a person might like her?
Right, which is, of course, the underpinning of the whole thing. And that's part of what makes her menacing. And I mean, I guess I've written about that before, that fat women who express any kind of sexuality are predatory. you know.
Your options are just sort of being like pure object and fetishy object. Like, you know, this is a good time that doesn't require you to have any engagement or commitment, or it's a, you know, nefarious thing coming at you. And I think because for most straight men, gay desire is seen as predatory and uncomfortable, associating that with a body that is then not something that we find acceptable, like doubles the game, you know? But then here's a spoiler. Like episode 4 of this film or of this limited series is really sort of like a turning point, because you go back in time to this guy failing at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, having a gay guy who's successful sort of take him under his wing and then lead him into a world of chemsex, which is doing drugs and having gay sex. And we use this as a sort of like a point to shift in our understanding of his relationship to Martha. It isn't just, oh, I'm a regular person who has this terrible fat lady who won't leave me alone. It's also sort of like, I'm in a strange emotional space. I have needs that I don't understand and damage that I don't understand, because he is the victim of sexual violence. And as a queer person watching it, there are a lot of different flavors of sexuality that are represented in this, which is like cool just from a representation perspective, that a person dating a person who's trans, a person who's, you know, is bisexual or has a fluid sexuality, all of that is cool. But I mean, the thing that is considered deeply transgressive is Donnie's passed out and he wakes up and the dude is doing something to his butt. And he's like, oh no, where have I gotten to? And it is sort of representing gay sex as being inherently predatory and creepy. And then when we see Donnie going on his sexual walkabout in all sorts of directions, yes, he has gay sex, but he only has gay sex where he's the top. Oh, I just want to remind people, anyone who is your listener who is inclined to say, what's so wrong with showing this cis gay man as a predator? Men are predators and gay men are predators. And like the idea that where penises go, danger happens. Like, and particularly where queer penises go, danger happens. That's one of the spells that is used to invoke turfdom.
If you're going to have the scene in the bathhouse with the scary, menacing men coming out of the darkness, can you have one other gay character that's not a rapist?
Well, this is a good thing to discuss, because it is a trend in queer storytelling, in gay male and cis gay male storytelling, that cis gay men love to make media about clubs and bathhouses and drugs and then say, but it's terrible. Are you familiar with the 8-hour-long 2-part gay play? It was called The Inheritance, and it was shortlisted for the Pulitzer, maybe. And it's terrible. And it's all about, oh, bad gay group sex, bathhouse, drugs. Isn't it terrible? And there's another way of being a good gay person that we're not going to show you, but you need to know that it exists. And it means that you have children and you settle down, but we're not going to show you that. And then you saw Bohemian Rhapsody, which was about how, oh, there are bad gay people and they have sex. And of course, in all of these stories, somebody gets punitive AIDS. Sure. Like, at least this didn't involve somebody getting punitive AIDS. But there is a correct way of being a gay guy that is off camera, and we're not going to show you. And it is a little frustrating. And I think we just need a couple more pieces of media that are like, clubs are fun, fucking is fun, and it's not necessarily a road to self-destruction. Sometimes it's just a place to have fun and learn that you're pansexual. Little Donnie learned that he was pansexual from this world. What's great about Baby Reindeer is you've got this person really sharing so much about himself and being so revealing. He is playing the role and he is writing the story, but also, as we know as television writers, and you've written a goddamn show that was about yourself. When you are controlling the narrative, you get to decide who the good guys and bad guys are. And there's something about it that is both extremely impressive to me and a little bit like, to what extent are we painting with the easiest colors here? And I think that that applies both to the gay stuff and to the fat stuff.
And to the trans stuff.
Yeah.
We have this skinny straight presenting. This white man is centered in this story.
Yes. It's about a straight presenting guy, like a cis white straight presenting guy with abs saying, am I going to be brave enough to date this trans lady? Am I going to be brave enough to be gay? And while watching it, I was so interested and captivated. But there's one of the later episodes, he's showering ashamedly. And I was just so aware that, like, you can't tell this story if it doesn't have abs. There's no way of telling this story that in any way centers Martha. And like so much of the structure that's here is like, he could not acknowledge or deal with having desires that were anything beyond cis on cis heterosexuality. And so he was ashamed of those things. So then he ends up sort of engaged with this cis on cis heterosexuality that is also shameful in its own way because she is fat and gross and mentally ill. You only get to do it if the person at the center is someone we can understand as a person. And Martha as a character never gets to be a person because she is a fat person who thinks that she is deserving of love. And that is conflated with mental illness. Now, you can 100% say, well, this person experienced a cis gay guy who was more powerful than him in the industry who sexually violated him. He experienced a mentally ill fat woman who wouldn't leave him alone and harassed him. And all of those things, but we don't see anything other than these situations where these things are conflated. Like, so much of the time, we see them in the same space.
I know. But I loved it, though. I loved this show. Seems like there's been a lot of discourse lately about what is the duty of art. Does it have to make a point or teach a lesson that is the correct lesson? Or is it okay and maybe better on a micro individual level for people to make the thing that they're making, especially if it's autobiographical and this really happened and this is so hyper-focused on his perspective? He's telling a story and he's being super vulnerable.
The preface of The Picture of Dorian Gray would tell us that art that is didactic, that art that has too clear of one point is not good art. And the purpose of art is to be complex. And I would say it's done its job that we're having this conversation. It's done its job that we're pulling it apart. But there's also the way that I, as a fat gay person who is also a writer, I'm just aware that we exist at a point in time when to sell a TV show, you need to have IP or a simply fabulous personal story that you turned into an Edinburgh show or like a good This American Life. And when there isn't IP that is about my experience, when there aren't books floating out around there, then you can't go and sell it. A significant problem in queer representation over the past 30 or 40 years has been like that it's always from a straight person's point of view. And this person isn't straight, but it's the story that is told is kind of that gayness happens to him. Like he's just a regular guy. And then he got gay dumped on him, and now he's got this gay. And the thing is, like, it deals with it in really cool ways.
I mean, he even says that. He's like, would I even be attracted to my trans girlfriend if I hadn't been raped by this man?
Yes.
Which is a crazy thing to say.
Not on the Joe Rogan podcast. If we were in like hour 2 of the Joe Rogan podcast, and like a Canadian fascist suggested to Joe Rogan that a lot of people are gay because they get raped into it by successful BBC writers, Joe would be like, yeah, I mean, I get that.
I guess the thing I bump up against is like, if he's genuinely having that question, I wouldn't want him to polish it for the audience. The fact that his perspective is fucked up is part of what makes it interesting. But I understand, I mean, like, look, I am personally ruined by this type of depiction of fat women.
Yes.
Like, I am in therapy being like, I'm terrified to appear sexual to other people or express sexuality at all ever because it's illegal.
I, like, a month or 2 ago was at a party and I met someone and I just like was legitimately charmed by him, legitimately attracted to him. And my reaction was, he doesn't want to have to deal with this. And like, that's a story that has been told to me 1,000 times and it just keeps being told. And you become uncomfortable with your own sexuality because you're told that a person who doesn't do that is a crazy. There is that moment at the end when he says he has been more committed to being disgusted by himself than he has to any of the relationships in his life. And it's just so honest that it buys me back in, you know?
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't turn against it because it's so honest, and it's so, I don't want to say brave, but it's just like so brutal.
I also do have questions about, like, he's being really brutal here. So is it safe or fair to be doing this? And it's like, yes, this is what art is for.
Yeah.
But like, you trying to tell me you're a man in your 30s and you never had an inkling? I've always been sort of like, guys know, like when you are a teenager, you know what makes your dick react. Like you get some sense of it. I don't know. We grow and evolve over time. But I went to a venerable female comic who came out in middle age. And I said, do you not know? Do you just like figure it out? And she was like, no, you know.
But that's like part of his weird pathology. You feel like he had no self.
Some people do discover things, figure things out, or what your brain can do to protect you from shit that it does not want to acknowledge is like so true and weird and big in gay stuff. After he has his big meltdown and says everything on a stage and it fixes his career, that he has to go to his parents and be like, all of these things are out there. You know, I am relatively open about a lot of things in media, but I was so impressed by the fact that he now has this show out there acknowledging all of these things that are things that we try to keep quiet because we have shame around them. It is a big, big cathartic piece of art. There's also something to be said for honesty and like the experience of going on a trans dating site and not being honest about who he was is the way so many people start their journey into being transphilic or being trans themselves or being gay themselves. I lied about who I was when I first went online to do gay stuff. One of the things that this limited series attempts to kind of do is use Donnie as a Christ-like figure to redeem the humanity of the people around him who can't be seen as human. So much of what the end of it is placing him in situations where we must identify him with Martha, where he is receiving kindness from the nice gay guy at the bar. He's getting a free Diet Coke the way that Martha earlier gets a free cup of tea from him, and is trying to say, all of us have been this person. More than 10 years ago, my friend Ryan, whom you know, was a local theater critic here in LA. And we went to a one-person show called Confessions of a Mormon Boy. And the Mormon boy was like a hot guy who told us his stories about going and doing depraved things and about how it tore apart his identity as he learned about gayness. And his big reveal was that he pulled off a toupee at the end of his show to be like, you know, look, I'm bald. I'm not as hot as you thought I was. But then when we went to the reception afterwards, the toupee was back on.
No.
And the thing is, the guy who wrote and created this show, which is based on a one-person show, when he goes and receives his awards, his toupee is going to be back on. He's going to show up to the awards with a respectable date and get up there and accept his Emmy and be a person and not be soiled by these things that he admitted, in the way that Martha's existence makes her not a person. Like the texture of who she is makes her someone who cannot be a genius or a person on a journey.
I kept thinking about the actress having to fly around and do press, you know? And like having to go on the plane. Like she's still just a fat lady.
Yes. I mean, having to deal with plane flights. God, let's hope that Netflix pays for business class. But also, she's not going to get nominated for anything.
Yeah.
Because her showing up and being fat and crazy is not a great performance.
Right.
It is just a gross person on screen. She is an obstacle. Fat people are jokes or obstacles. Those are the things that we get to be.
I gotta say, though, I liked her confidence. Like,
yes,
because that's something that I don't have.
Oh, can I tell you another anecdote?
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of years ago, Comedy Central, back when there was still kind of a Comedy Central, wanted holiday movies. And I sent them pitches for like 3 or 4 holiday movies. And the only one that they liked was gay. And they were like, can we do this and can we make it not gay?
Jesus Christ.
And but the premise of it was a guy has argument with his boyfriend about not taking his boyfriend home because he's still semi-closeted to his parents. He gets home, goes on Grindr, hooks up with a hot guy, and then that hot guy gives him the full Hallmark movie treatment for the remainder of his week and a half at home, like showing up. Basically, he is a What About Bob style stalker, but hot and chivalrous. And they were like, we love it, but can we make one of them a woman? And I was like, the answer here is either crazy bitch or a man stalking a woman in a way that is creepy. It only works because it's 2 men and we're not scared for one of the parties.
Right.
But they were just like, but can't you make it a crazy bitch? And I was like, I don't want to tell a crazy bitch story. And so that's my question to you, I guess. Is this still a crazy bitch story?
Kind of, but it feels so different to me because he's so attached to her. He's like extracting from her in this way that he's addicted to the point where, you know, at the end, he's like still jerking off to her and he's still just like listening to her as like she's a podcast.
I loved it. Coming to the moment where he starts jerking off to her because of what it means emotionally, to me was one of the hottest scenes I've seen in something in a long time, because it was reminding me of like when you can really get your heart and emotions into a masturbate, like when it really is touching something deep and dangerous. Isn't that grand? The connection to her need and the way that it was reflective of himself. I mean, art is about seeing humanity in other people. It is about sharing of yourself. And like this story really does get to a point that when he understands her, when he misses her, it's beautiful. One of the cool things about Baby Reindeer is that it really blurs that line between personal experience and representation, you know?
Right. A thing that's weird about fatness is that Donnie is not a classically handsome man. If fatness was not stigmatized, this wouldn't be a laughably mismatched couple. Like, Martha's perfectly cute. And for a second at the beginning, I was like, oh, I think because I live in this other realm most of the time where I'm not consuming diet culture media as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, are they going to have like a little one night stand? Like, yeah, they kind of work. They're kind of a attractiveness match. But no, not if one person has abs.
Because fatness is a barrier to agency. It is a moral failing, and it is a reason that you don't do anything, that you don't get things done, that you don't have perspective. There is a real need to not have to say, what if this were a person like me, in a way that doesn't apply to the normal homeliness that the man who played Donnie is experiencing. Right. Also, he fits into the clothes. Richard Gadd will be in an Italian suit in GQ in the next 12 months. And that is something that you need to do to be able to play the game. And it is not something that is of open access to a me.
And we will not be seeing Martha in Vogue. I mean, maybe we will. Sometimes they'll pick like a pet fat person for the season and be like, look, we made her look okay, kind of.
It's cool that we're doing that. Shit's shifting. You can't deny that shit isn't shifting, but it is also just a question of like, do we have to, you and I personally, have to push the rock so hard that we end up dying and being crushed under the rock or being forgotten by the rock, you know?
Do you think it's actually patronizing to have them go out of their way so clearly to not ever have anyone make fun of her for being fat? If we're praising this thing for its honesty and realism, that is something that would happen.
The other guys there at the bar do.
Yeah.
But there is also the way that it is just implicit.
Right. You don't need to say
in his reaction. And the thing is there will be a lot of people who say like, it wasn't about because she was fat. He never said anything.
Right.
And it's like, if you want to be disingenuous, absolutely. But like the reality that most of the time people are fine with me entering spaces as long as I don't cross the boundaries of what's unacceptable. You know, I am supposed to know my place. And the magic of Martha is that she does not know her place. We got this little scrap of her story. We got the baby reindeer that meant so much to her. Well, here's another question. Should we be offended by his speculation of her sad life? Because his speculation, just thinking about all the dances she didn't get invited to.
Right.
And like, that kind of thing is truly just like, I see a fat person and I assume a cloud of sadness that has beset their lives.
Right. Here's a question. From an artistic perspective, if you're Richard, is there an argument to be made that you are making an artistic choice to flatten all of these other characters into just what this main character would realistically be able to see?
Yes.
But that's also just an easy out. If he could say that.
I don't think it's easy. A lot of things don't do the work of providing the empathy. I mean, on the one hand, it's saying, can you believe it? It is a level of sadness that even I, a human being, might experience. Like, I get annoyed with that, but at the same time, it's doing work that other things aren't doing. And it is saying, in a very Christian sense of empathy, everyone out there who is suffering, we are all suffering in the same way. And you may not see it as easily on my face, but I am. I kind of love it. If you could either go back in time and tell Richard Gadd to provide 10% more empathy and awareness for Martha in this work, or kill Jillian Michaels as a baby. Just remove her from all discourse.
Oh, God. I mean, the second one might make the first one unnecessary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the magnitude of the culture change.
That was just a joke. No one thinks Jillian Michaels should die.
She's gonna live forever because
because she's not fat and she doesn't use Ozempic.
Yeah, she doesn't need it because she has willpower and a brain.
And Jenny O. Turkey.
You're a more seasoned TV writer than me. Is there a version of the show where you make it 8 episodes? First of all, what's 7 episodes? That's weird. Where you make it 8 episodes and there's one like capsule episode that's about Martha? And do we even trust him to tell that story?
Well, it's, do we trust him to tell that story? Do we trust studio and network and everything to want that? Like, they're going to be trying to build something that is vehicle of him and about him. They're going to want to see through those eyes and everything. And also, there's the British style of writing things is not our style. We have a writer's room with 8 to 12 people in it. So you have somebody there who can give you a variety of experiences. They have 6 or 7 episode seasons that are written by one person, and it really is supposed to be that person's perspective. But I will point you to a different British Netflix limited series to look at the way that having shit that isn't amazing in our world can lead to better shit in the future. Were you at all aware of the Netflix series One Day?
No.
Okay. So it's based on a novel from like 20 years ago, but there's an Anne Hathaway movie version of it that is fine. And then they remade it, but with a South Asian protagonist that provides so many layers and like just different approaches to the material that made it a much juicier story. And I'm saying it's good that we have Baby Reindeer out there. And when we're in our next IP desert 30 years from now, maybe some fat girl will come along and say, let me tear this apart. Maybe some pansexual guy will say, let me tell this story in a way that is different or includes more of these perspectives. I would say that, you know, Baby Reindeer is well matched to the environment that we meet now. And if something is too progressive, it won't land because it won't make sense to a lot of people, you know?
As a woman who has written a one-woman show and is desperately struggling to book it places and to find a dedicated booking agent who would like to make money off of me.
Right.
I had this realization this morning in the bathroom where I was like, oh, if I was like skinny and hot, someone would have grabbed me 12 years ago and said, let's go. I'm going to capitalize on you and make you a star. You know what I mean? I like have the thing. You could book it. We could make $10,000 tomorrow. No, you don't want to?
I'm obsessed with the idea of potential and how Los Angeles and Hollywood see potential. And it really is, do we know where this person goes? Have we seen this person before? It is just them looking for different versions of people that they have seen before. I've told the story many times of like Hawkeye comic, a very funny comic I knew, who had always had really good representation. I had not always had good representation. And then he told me I've made less than $1,000 from comedy in the last 3 years. And I just freaked out realizing, but the thing is they still see him as someone who could go somewhere, and they do not understand how you make money off of me, despite the fact that I very regularly and consistently make money. It's frustrating. It's
so frustrating.
Very frustrating. And like one of the things that was hardest was after The Hangover, like 2 to 3 years later, there were all of these false Galifianakises in sitcoms. Everywhere you turned, like there were false Galifianakises. And then after Bridesmaids, people thought we're going to need off-brand Melissa McCarthy's. And the industry was like, no, we're not going to do that.
In fact, she needs to go on a diet.
It's very hard because we like think in terms of people don't want these stories, or there aren't these stories, or there aren't people who are capable of telling these stories. And it's just the same things happening over and over again. If Baby Reindeer feels different, that's a good thing. It means that we're going in another direction. But we also need to talk about why it's still same. And also like choices about how you style this person, how you shoot this person. There's a way the misspellings in the text from Martha, me, they were just sort of repeating the line, she's pathetic. And I wish she had had just a little bit more Ursula in her.
Yeah, I know. Then I think about Ursula and I'm like, Ursula is all bravado.
Yes.
And no vulnerability. And then I do like that Martha has both.
Yes. I mean, the thing is,
I don't know.
Like, Ursula also has good controlled sex. Ursula's boobs aren't bad. Ursula's hair is good. Ursula is beautiful. Howard Ashman wanted us to be like, oh, her. And I do love Martha having vulnerability, but that it is two-dimensional. Early 2000s British musical act Lush had a great line, I'm a 5-foot mirror for enjoying yourself. Here's 7 years bad luck. About the idea that like men are just looking for women to say something about themselves. In not having access to Martha, she really is just a reflection for whatever Donnie is projecting at her. We do have the voicemails and the text messages that do give us some degree of texture and meaning, but it amounts to very little. It amounts to, my life was hard and I had a baby reindeer that I loved.
Yeah. I vaguely had bad parents, maybe. And I live alone and I eat soup.
Her house being a mess also just felt like we have so little representation and it's all the same kind of look at this sloppy, terrible fat person. But also part of it is I am a sloppy, terrible fat person. And so I'm just like, oh no, they see me for my grossness.
I know. It's so hard. But then that's how we end up in a corner because I feel like I have to present a fictional version of myself to the world so as not to reflect poorly on fat people as a whole.
Yes.
I have to sanitize my image.
Last time we had dinner, I explained to you the concept of Shonda Ferdigoyim. You're embarrassing us in front of the Gentiles.
Yes.
And you like have to like keep everything together and you can't do anything to satisfy people's ideas of what fat people are. Any minority group runs into it. There was a period of time when I wouldn't eat a donut in public because I was just like, the minute you eat a donut, you're just that person.
I guess it maybe comes down to you're this skinny white guy with abs. Maybe you don't get to tell the messy, sad fat person story. Not that you even tried.
I think more people telling their own honest story is a step forward. And I think he did a good job. We just live in a world that is still imperfect. But also we cannot count this as fat representation and we cannot count this. in its way as gay representation. You're like, guy, but by the end, he's a queer person who's coming out to his parents. He is, but he only gets to do that because he had 3 episodes of passing, you know? And it just frustrates me that, like, if you have something that is explicitly queer, everybody's like, well, that's for those people. I don't need to watch that. But if you have somebody who gives you their presentation of not challenging you, sucks you in and then challenges you, I would say 2 things. Maybe I should go back in the closet and just do that. That would probably be a better path to success. And you would think when it came to sucking people in, gay guys would be better.
I think it's a really fascinating piece of work, and I was consumed by it, even though it hurt me in several ways.
Yes.
And that's like, okay.
Art canon should challenge. And the thing is like, saying art can never be more than the representation of its artist's perspective can also go along with, but we do need to diversify the artists who get the infrastructure to be able to tell stories on a broader platform, because it's been a lot of the same people for a long time.
That is sort of where I landed. I just kept thinking, wow, maybe it is still okay for straight, passing, cis white men to make art. If we're going to let any of them do it, this guy really did it. Maybe they do have something to say.
And like, I respect media being progressive and media trying to open our eyes. It can and it should and it does. But I think that Hollywood has gotten really bad at reflecting back many parts of America who do feel underrepresented. Part of the trouble is we save up all of our white cis representation for like rich coastal people who are making this stuff. And it means that everyone in Tennessee is like, this isn't about me. You know, we have to figure out that 48% of America who is resiliently voting for Trump and figure out how to talk with them and engage them and hear their stories as well. And I don't think they're right about anything, but I think that we live in a democracy and you ignore those people at your own peril. What I'm saying is we should be pitching a trad wife sitcom. She just bakes bread all day long and carries a baby on her hip.
Great.
Great.
Let's do it. 3 seasons in, she becomes pansexual.
Yes.
That's how we get them. All right. I love you.
I love you.